Landlords in North Carolina are upset over a proposal for a law that would make landlords pay up to 30% of their rental income to the government if their property has a high incidence of crime. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of North Carolina. So, North Carolina is not known as being an anti landlord state, but they've put a proposal up before the state basically that would hurt landlords in a big way and for things that are not necessarily their fault. Now, when I talk about me being against a lot of the landlord legislation, they're always, oh, we want to keep the bad actors in check. We want to make sure that the bad landlords, they have verifications and there's a way to go after them, right? And my thing is that instead of these laws hurting the bad landlords, what they end up doing is they paint the good landlords as bad, they punish them, and then they fine them, they get caught up in this mess, and then we end up with landlords who don't want to operate within the state anymore because they can't make any money, or landlords spending thousands and thousands of dollars when there was no need for it. Okay. And so, I understand what they're trying to do, but the big thing is rather than going after those one or two specific people who aren't doing things right, they punish everyone. And I absolutely hate that. Like I've said many, many times before, 99% of all landlords are doing everything according to the law. They are respectful to their tenants, they keep their properties in good shape, and there is no issue. But that 1%, that you're going after, right? Well, when you pass your ridiculous law, it doesn't apply just to that 1%. It applies to everyone. And that's why it's a bad thing. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. So are there laws in your jurisdiction that supposedly go after bad landlords, but the good landlords get stuck and get screwed over by? And I'll just give you one example of something that happens right here in Omaha where I own rental properties, okay? And they have housing inspections. So they created this housing inspection law because they wanted to go after a bad landlord. They had an incident where they had a bad landlord who had an apartment building that was falling apart, and he had tenants living in horrible conditions. So they put housing inspections on all landlords within the city. So I had to pay, I can't remember how much it was. I think it's like $125 for an inspection for my property when my properties have never had any problems. Okay? Never. I've never had any problems. I didn't, keep my place in bad shape, but I have to, get an inspector in there, looking at my place, criticizing me, telling me to fix garbage that didn't need to be fixed, and I had to pay that dude on top of it because someone else screwed up. So when I say that this is ridiculous, it is absolutely ridiculous. They went after that landlord, but then they're, oh, well, we want to make sure no other landlords, excuse me, we want to make sure no other landlords have the same, we don't have issues with other landlords for the same problem, right? And I'm just like, well, here's the thing. When I pay these extra costs, right, that is going to be passed down to the tenants. They're going to pay higher rents because of it. And it's just absolutely necessary because of these things that you have put into place. So don't blame me when you're saying, oh, well, what happened to the affordable housing here in Omaha? Well, that's what happened. And that's what's going to happen in North Carolina with this new law they're trying to pass. So anyway, let's get into the article. This article is coming from WRAL.com, and it says, proposed crackdown on bad landlords finds pushback in North Carolina House. Cities in North Carolina would have more power to go after bad landlords under a bipartisan bill that received a House committee hearing this week. But groups representing landlords say it goes too far, and some lawmakers agree. And fortunately, there are still lawmakers in some states, at least, that are on our side because, you know what, we need to have, politicians on our side. They need to understand that, hey, when you go after property rights, you're not just hurting the landlords, you're hurting the tenants, you're hurting homeowners as well. You're hurting everyone. And that is not what we need right now, especially with the cost of everything going up. We don't need to be putting more burden on landlords, and that's going to just drive the costs of housing up. So anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. Cities in North Carolina would have more power to go after bad landlords under a bipartisan bill that received a House committee hearing this week, but groups representing landlords say it goes too far, and some lawmakers agree. Representative Bill Ward, Republican from Pasquotank, said he filed House Bill 595 to request of local officials in his district, which includes large areas of high poverty. They're reporting situations of substandard living conditions, mold, water intrusion, appliances not working, holes in floors and walls, serious type things. Sewer backup, sewer overfills, the Ward told WRAL News, adding that existing law didn't give them the enforcement action that they felt they needed to correct those problems. Well, here's the thing, right? You say existing law doesn't work to address those problems right now. But instead of trying to pass something that, basically would allow you to just go after those specific people, you instead want to pass legislation that will target all landlords. And that is what my problem is with this as it is written. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean here in just one moment. So let's continue. Existing law, Ward said, allows local officials to conduct targeted inspections, but not to take punitive measures like fines or liens, which he said might be necessary to shut down some of these bad landlords. Speaking to the House Regulatory Reform Committee Wednesday, Ward, a landlord himself, said that during his 33-year career in law enforcement, he had been into residences and apartments and trailers where I would not put a dog. Complaints were actually given to the landlords. The landlord said, You're paying $300 a month. What do you expect? You want the Taj Mahal?" Ward distributed photos of unsafe and unsanitary rentals in his district to all the members of the committee, some of whom called them horrific. And, I've got respect for the guy, okay? He's a Republican, okay? He's a former law enforcement officer, according to this, and he's a landlord, right? So we have a lot in common. But we do not agree on the things that he is trying to do in order to improve these problems. Now, I am one of those people who believes that people should have, clean and safe and sanitary conditions to live in. Now, that is not saying that people are going to have the newest, most modern, most updated place. Okay? That's not going to happen. You're going to be living in an old place with old fixtures, and stuff might break more often, and stuff might not have been upgraded since 1960 when the place was built. That is a fact when you're paying super low, super rock bottom rents. But I do believe that, hey, yes, you should have a place that is safe and clean. Okay? Keep in mind, though, cleanliness in a lot of these incidences is the responsibility of the tenant. If you don't take your trash out, if you don't keep your property or my property on the inside and in the areas where you're supposed to take care of, if you don't keep it clean, that is not my fault. Okay? So don't sit there and tell me, oh, well, the landlord is responsible because the tenant left garbage everywhere and now there's an infestation of roaches. No, that is the tenant's responsibility to keep that place clean. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a roach or a rodent problem, okay? But like I said, if we're talking about safety issues, I can agree with that. But, the law that he is trying to implement, it goes too far. It goes way too far. Concerns from the committee. Members of the committee, most of whom also said they were landlords, agreed that there's a problem, but said Ward's bill might be too broad. It would require landlords to fix problems within 21 days and allow periodic repeat inspections of properties with 2 code violations within the past 6 months or high incidences of crime. Repeat offenders would have to register with the city and could have to pay up to 30% of their rental income to fund the program. Now, there all of a sudden we start seeing the problem with this suggested law. Okay, why are we paying 30% of our rental income to the city for code violations? Okay, and what exactly do you mean by code violations? In some places, code violations is grass being too high. So let's say a city jumps in there and they say, okay, you have to pay 30% of your rental income. You own a duplex, each side rents for $1,000 a month. So it's $2,000 a month, right? So you need to pay 30% of that, or $600 a month, to the city because your grass was too high, and they decided that, oh, well, we're going to start fining you. Hey, it does not cost $600 to cut the grass, okay? And maybe I need to get the grass cut more often, but hey, sometimes it rains a lot and the grass grows fast. Basically, that is ridiculous, okay? That is ridiculous. The city shouldn't be collecting that much money, and you take our rental income away, and that will greatly impair our ability to actually get the things repaired that the tenants want fixed. See, and that's another issue that a lot of people don't realize. Like, if you stop paying rent, if you take the rent away, hey, we're not going to be able to fix that stuff because that's what the money we use to make our repairs. Man, let me continue. There's another little interesting thing in here from this committee, right? And I'm glad that this committee that's looking at this law is composed of people who are mostly landlords themselves. And I know in politics there's a lot of landlords out there, right? But that doesn't mean that a lot of them actually represent our best interests. Some of them are more concerned with getting votes than they are with protecting property rights. And it says, um, Representative Debbie Butler, Democrat from New Hanover, said the measure needs to make clear distinctions between minor code violations like peeling paint or too long grass and major violations that impact health and safety. Butler and several other committee members also questioned the automatic inclusion of properties in areas with high crime rates. Let's suppose you've got tenants that decide every night there needs to be an outdoor party there. Now the landlord is responsible for checking to ensure that there's no outdoor party there every night that's disorderly and having to shoo everybody away, asked Representative Jeff Zinger, Republican from Forsyth. That really seems to be more of a responsibility of law enforcement. We all know that law enforcement can't be everywhere all the time, Ward responded. Yeah, and by them including properties in there that have high incidences of crime, they are just asking for trouble, because it is not the landlord's fault if crime is being committed in the area. Yes, there are bad tenants out there who are criminals. Yes, there are properties where a lot of crime does go on, right? But handling crime is not the responsibility of the landlord, and allowing cities to take 30% of your rental income because you have high crime in the area, that is ridiculous. So, man, I really am opposed to this, but it is encouraging seeing that there are people on both sides of the political aisle, both Democrats and Republicans within North Carolina, who are saying that, hey, this law is going a little bit too far, and we need to we need to rewrite this, or we need to change this, or make this better so that it doesn't punish good landlords with good intentions.